Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar titled Smart Communications for RIAs and Independent Broker-Dealers. My name is Craig Hall, and I am the owner and founder of Marketing Wiz. I know there are a number of people who have registered and that some of you may need to jump off the call early. I promise to send you a link to watch the on-demand version. So today's webinar is the beginning of a short series on financial marketing topics that I will be hosting every 2 weeks throughout the spring. Our next webinar is titled The Basics of Search, How to Leverage Yext and Google AdWords to Grow Your Firm. You can go ahead and sign up at marketingwiz.co, send me an email at chall@marketingwiz, and I'll register you directly. In May, we're going to be doing one. We're going to bring Logan on, who heads up our content team as well. So, stay tuned for upcoming sessions, and feel free to email me with any ideas or topics you would like for us to cover. For any of our webinars, I will send you a link to the on-demand version if you are not able to attend the live session. Let's jump into today. So today's webinar is for RIAs and independent broker-dealers looking to prepare their firms for long-term growth. I'm shooting to wrap this all up in about 20 minutes, and I've divided this discussion into two 10-minute segments. In the first segment, we're going to talk about the financial marketing landscape and talk a little bit about the role that marketing should play in your firm and how to understand your investments in marketing. Then in the second half of this discussion, we're going to touch on some of the technologies that we see firms using to grow their marketing. When it comes to marketing, there are a number of short-term marketing activities that every firm can probably implement or expand upon at some level if they've already got started. But then the question really becomes why? So that's the question we're all asking. Why do it, and what is the ROI? Marketing is an investment like all the other investments you are making to modernize your firm. So let's just take a very quick look at today's wealth management landscape and how it will impact your firm over the next several years. We all know that we are in the midst of a major transfer of wealth to the next generation, and the wealth management industry as a whole is in transition. So everybody's on this call or watching this on demand because we know we need to do marketing. But how do we justify our investments of time and resources when we know that 75% of the assets are coming from the client referral channel? So 75% is the number that was published in last summer's, the 2016 Schwab RIA benchmark report. And through my discussions and the work we're doing, this has caused a lot of firms to ask the question, so what should our marketing look like knowing that 75% of our organic growth is coming from referrals? And I think this is a great question, and one that we certainly are working with folks to help answer and shape for their firms. And this is something, regardless of firm size, is an important question to address. But what should your marketing look like both today and in the future? So, when we look at this slide, it talks a little bit about next generation investors, the transfer of wealth. But what we know is that next generation investors are more comfortable with technology and willing to communicate via a range of digital platforms. Keep in mind that next generation investors includes individuals in that Generation X category who may be in their late 40s and will be moving from that building wealth phase to that retiring soon phase in the next couple years, in the next 5 years. So when we say next generation investor, this is not all about millennials and kids with little or no assets. We're talking about people with real assets who are drawn to hybrid models and very, very comfortable communicating and managing their investments using technology. So I ask you to think about what the future looks like for you and your firm. Consider the present day model, and let's address something that I know is going through everybody's mind. We have discussions about it all the time. We're continually working toward those ROI models, but how do I measure my marketing and what is my ROI? Whether you use our firm, another firm, or build an internal team, you are going to always be asking this question. You're asking this around all your investments and all your investments in technology, on the investment management side, on the client services side within your operations. But if I'm going to spend, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, whatever that number is per month, whether that is hiring an internal person, paying an outside firm, or some hybrid between the two, what is my return going to be? Yeah. This is where a lot of folks start thinking about lead generation, and lead generation all too often becomes synonymous with marketing. But I'd like us to consider that we need to refine our thoughts on marketing and see how it fits into the big picture and long-term growth of our firm. We need to look past the idea that we're going to try and measure every single activity and then try to attribute the dollar value in assets acquired. Consider the present day environment again, where 75% of the assets are being brought in via client referrals, and how marketing can play a role in that today. Under the client referral model, a client refers somebody to your firm, the advisor picks up the phone or sends an email, probably both, schedules a time to meet or talk on the phone. But this is where your marketing can really impact today. But at the same time, that referral, most likely before the advisor has a chance to engage and start shaping the story, your referral has probably already done a quick Google search on the firm's name, visited the website, and potentially even visited one or more of your social media channels. And first impressions being what first impressions are, you can't take any of that back. What they experienced matters. Interestingly, one of the things that we've found, it's a little anecdotal to this, but that team pages and firm principles are some of the top visited pages, which says to me that investors are very interested in seeing the faces and ideas of the people behind the firm. So I've heard a lot of firms tell me that, when it comes to something like this and this model, that we just need to service the hell out of our clients and we will continue to grow organically through client referrals. Listen, I'm not going to argue with any of that, but I will add that your referrals perceptions will be based on the entire experience that will likely begin before they connect with an advisor. Referrals will speak on the phone with advisors, come in for meetings, go to lunch, dinner, golf, the normal activities that have always happened, financial planning, portfolio reviews. But consider the value of that prospect seeing some nice branded display ads online, along the time of this courtship, receiving a newsletter printed or via email, being invited to webinars and events. Imagine sending a nice piece of print collateral after an initial phone call. There's a certain level of expectation that folks have around their wealth management firm and the professionalism that they expect. And all of this is happening while he or she is reviewing your competition, whether that's other wealth management firms in the market, whether that's wirehouse firms, or whether the competition is just simply doing nothing and remaining with their current advisor. So I would ask, how important is it to increase your profile, increase your visibility across these different channels in today's environment? And that's just for today to support the client referral model and some growth in other channels, not to mention what that is going to look like as we start to see a shift in where referrals and new business is coming from, and what that's going to look like in the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years down the road. A lot of what we talk about and focus on when it comes to marketing is around personalization and segmentation. So here is a great quote that John Bietti from Schwab had when the 2015 Charles Schwab RIA benchmark report came out. And it kind of highlights two important things. The ability for the firm to basically do segmentation to align itself around their client service model, but it also helps to align itself around how to communicate and engage clients and prospects in a thoughtful way. Senior advisors, I will argue, do this naturally, and a lot of the wealth management and client services delivery models is based off of the idea of working with people based on where they are at in their financial life today. Again, this is done very naturally by experienced and seasoned advisors, but how do we apply this thinking to our marketing and communications, and how do we use that to identify some specific areas today that we can start or expand with inside of our firms. Whether it's visits to the website, whether it's PR strategy, automated email messages, or collateral that is really intended to support the firm's advisors so that they can engage peers and colleagues in their local and regional markets and in their networks. You know, and whether we're looking to develop core segments of recently retired, retiring soon, building wealth, or getting started, you know, how we talk to people in person, which is something that advisors do naturally, is important. But also how we talk to them online is very, very important as well, and something that I think we all need to spend some more time developing as we start to think about and make investments in our marketing. So I'm going to leave and close this segment with one final thought. You know, if we try to say one thing to everybody, we really run the risk of not connecting with anybody. So I'm going to leave you with that thought as we transition into the next segment of this program. But you know, as we close this segment out, I want to invite you to reach out to me with any questions you might have. You know, if you're listening on demand, send me an email at challmarketingwiz.co. Pick up the phone. You certainly can call me, but if you have questions, I will be sure to respond to them. And please remember that every 2 weeks we're going to have an ongoing series of these. And for those of you who are sticking around, we're going to just go ahead and jump right into the next segment, which is talking about FinTech and FinMar solutions to grow your firm's marketing.